Here in central London, there are 5 major railway stations along a 2.5-mile stretch. But the most extravagant and my own personal favourite is, of course, St Pancras. Opened in 1868, it is one of the grandest stations ever built. It is a towering neo-Gothic giant. It's been built with all the dynamism and self-confidence of the Victorian era.
Today, St Pancras is the gateway to Europe, with direct trains to Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, amongst others. But in 1868, it was the new kid on the block. The Midland Railway Company was constructing a new track into the capital, and St Pancras was to be its grand London terminus. This Gothic cracker was the result of a collaboration between architect George Gilbert Scott and engineer William Henry Barlow.
So I've come here to visit, to see exactly how this building became such an incredible landmark on London's railway scene.
Josie Murray is a building conservation specialist who is charged with looking after the heritage of this wonderful building.
Why is this station so remarkably grand?
The objective of the Midland Railway Company to make a big, bold statement about who they were, about where they came from. They're the new people on the scene and they're going to make a big impact. And they want to stand out amongst the competition. Part of the philosophy of the Midlands, as well as saying, you know, here we are, it was using materials that originated from the Midlands to help reinforce that message.
Right.
So the red brick that we now sort of possibly take for granted, that was actually really quite novel, because all this brick comes from Nottingham.
So you couldn't have seen that in London at this time?
No, because it came down
new
the
material.
railway. So you've suddenly got this bright red building. There's 60 million bricks.
60 million?
St Pancras and the approaches. And there's 80,000 cubic feet of dressed stone. That was created, carved by hand. And there's so much attention to detail. It's really beautiful work.
I guess it isn't just about beauty, showcasing all of these materials from the Midlands. This is actually saying this is a showroom for all the things that can be transported to London from the Midland Railway.
Absolutely. So all of the ironwork, these 25 principal trusses, they were all made by the Butterley Iron Company in Derby. And similarly, the columns, they were all manufactured up in the Midlands and brought down to London. It's not just building materials, there's also decorative elements. So if you look around up at the top of the wall, is that beautiful ceramic frieze, which is made of Minton tiles from Stoke-on-Trent. You could imagine you'd come in here and go, yeah, you'd have those in your house.
I must possess those.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's fabulous.
I adore this station, not least for the sheer level of detail on display.
Up close, you can see how fine this station really is, can't you?
Oh, very much so. I mean, if we're even just looking up here at the top of the door, you come up to the capital on the column, that's completely different to the one next door. So it's just this attention to detail. And if you think as well that each one of these bricks was laid by hand, so somebody picked this up and put this down, it's all carved, the detailing on this Mansfield red sandstone. Just think of the logistics as well of getting the building materials to your new station along a track that you're actually still constructing.
The colours of this stone and the brick and the masonry together, it's magical. It ties together so beautifully.
But then if we move along and say, for example, look at these iron roof trusses, and you look at these and you look down along the length of the train shed, and they're just sort of these very beautiful sort of riveted plates, but they're actually quite deceptive because you've got, so you can see here the depth and you think that this is it.
It tapers down.
And you think, oh, it's very beautiful and graceful. It's all quite misleading, but it's actually hidden within the depth of the wall. There's probably about twice as much of that ironwork again. These roof trusses also tie into the east-west principal girders.
So actually this whole station is a great big iron structure underneath as well, tied together and pulled together length and width-way.
Yep, very much. The train shed itself is 780 feet long. It's 100 feet high and 245 foot wide, so it was the biggest single-span roof of its time.
The vast scale of this ridge and furrow roof wasn't just an aesthetic decision, but a financial one. The Midland Railway Company was keen to get not just its building materials to the London markets, but also consumables like coal and milk. A larger roof created more indoor space in which wagons could move around. Most people only get to appreciate this immense structure from underneath, but Josie has something truly special planned for me. I'm at St Pancras in central London. It's considered one of the most elegant stations in the world and a masterpiece of Victorian Gothic architecture. This incredible station took only 4 years to build. It was completed in 1868, and I just love it. Building conservation specialist Josie Murray is giving me special access to one of the station's most iconic features.
Right, so if we go along this way and through the magic red door.
Oh, Josie, this is a real treat.
It's not many people come up the spiral staircase.
This is a proper behind-the-scenes tour. How many steps is it?
Oh, are you counting?
No, I'm thinking it's hundreds.
Are you going to come out?
Wow, good grief. Gosh, this is a long way up, isn't it? But what a spectacular view. Almost at the top of the train shed roof, aren't we?
Yes.
How high is this?
Well, the apex of the roof is 100 feet from the platform level. When it was constructed, it was 2.5 acres of glass. I mean, now there's 11,000 panes of glass in this roof.
Before the station was built, the Midland Railway had to use other railway companies' lines to transport their freight, and it came at a cost. The rival Great Northern Railway, which had opened tracks all the way into King's Cross in 1852, charged the equivalent of £2 million a year in today's money.
Which is going to really not help your profit, is it, if you're going to be paying another railway company to run your trains over it?
No, and this is where the issues arose, because quite often Great Northern let their trains take priority over the Midland. Their trains were sat in sidings for a considerable amount of time while the other Great Northern services ran through.
The Midland Railway needed its own station, but London was crowded. The only space available was between King's Cross and Euston, and even that was problematic.
So to the south, we have the under the Euston Road is the Metropolitan Railway.
So you got to the end of these tracks, you got to that road.
Basically, that's it.
And that's it.
No further.
Yeah.
The underground Metropolitan Railway, built 5 years earlier, effectively ran along the boundary of where railways could be built. Landowners wouldn't allow anything further south. And this wasn't the only constraint the chief engineer had to contend with. He also had to navigate the Fleet River to the east and Regent's Canal to the north.
So Barlow's solution was to elevate the platforms on a series of cast iron columns and then create the train deck, which allowed him to get a much greater expanse than had previously done before.
Right. The contrast up here between the two stations of St Pancras and King's Cross is really quite clear, isn't it? We're looming over.
It is.
The Great Northerns.
It is beautiful. If you're familiar as well with the John O'Connor painting of 1884 with a view down Pentonville Road, and you just see St Pancras sort of reaching up to the skies with the pinnacles of, this beautiful Gothic revival architecture, and it just stands out so much against the surrounding. And then you sort of look over at King's Cross, and it's sort of, it's a very functional building. It's London stop. You can then see how much of an impact it would have made.
If I think of this station when I was a child back in the 1980s, it felt very different below, and the roof, I think, was quite different, wasn't it?
It was, yes. During both World Wars, actually, the station suffered damage from bombs dropping on it and nearby. So the ridge and furrow glazing, which was originally timber glazing battens with glass, was all lost.
The station was renovated between 2004 and 2007 at a cost of £800 million.
So part of the restoration project for this station was to go back and look at those original construction records and to look at how the Ridge and Fire Aid was designed and built. And that informed the design that we have here today, although obviously using modern materials, say polyester powder-coated glazing battens. It's beautiful to have it restored as its original design. It just transforms the space. The light now is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, looking down into the station now, it's some beautiful shadows and lights.
You only have to glance at this building to see that every single inch has been crafted carefully to exude extravagance and opulence. This is a building that is determined to be remembered by all who pass through it, even today.
And my exploration of this architectural marvel is only just beginning.